Welcome back to the Jay's Fit Down podcast. I'm your host, Jaden, and today we're going to be talking about the Cincinnati Bengals and why they have been one of the worst franchises in the NFL the past couple of years, really just in general, and how they have failed Joe Burrow countless times over and over. And I really am going to pitch, my effort here as far as saying, I think Joe Burrow needs to request a trade from the Bengals. And I'm going to tell you why I believe that and why I think it's going to benefit him for the rest of his career. Sadly, for Bengals fans out there. But so let me get into that. But before we do, I just want to wish everybody happy holidays. If you see behind me, got my Christmas tree up. So we're close to Christmas, coming up on Thursday. As you guys know, at least in Atlanta here, I think it's going to be like 70 something degrees on Christmas. So it'll be weird. I think like every Christmas I can remember, it's always been really cold. So we're going to have a warm Christmas this year. So there's that. And we're also going to have football, on Netflix exclusively. So if you guys want to catch all the games there, you can find that on Netflix. On Thursday, all the games will be streaming. So no cable, none of that. It's not going to be on there. It will just be on that platform. So, like I said, make sure you guys, just hit that subscribe button, share with your friends, and please help to continue to support the channel here on Jay's Fit Down. We greatly appreciate it. I think the Bengals, guys, I really, this year has been a very disappointing year for them, to say the least. I mean, of course, Joe Burrow went down with injury, and in that span that he was injured, Cincinnati went 1-8 without him. The defense has been very bad. The past couple of years, this year wasn't, maybe a smidge better in some instances, but just not, still very underperforming, very inconsistent. Just not very talented on that side of the ball. You go and draft Shamar Stewart in the NFL draft, in April, and then he had all the contract situations and disputes there. And then you finally get him on the field. He's not producing, for being that top pick for them. So a lot of people are talking about like Zach Taylor needs to be fired. You can make a case for that. I think that's a solid case that people can make for, since the Super Bowl appearance they had in the 2021 through 2022 season where they played the Rams, the Bengals just have kind of been a shell of that team since. They just haven't been themselves. They made the AFC Championship game, I believe, one more time, if I'm not mistaken. Since then, they lost to the Chiefs, but just really the past couple of seasons, it's been very inconsistent for the Bengals. And it hasn't been Joe Burrow's fault. It has not been the offense's fault necessarily. It's more so been the defense's fault. The team, that organization, not investing on the defensive side of football is hurting them. And Trey Hendrickson being really their only lone bright spot on the defensive side, and he held out a while for the contract, situation and stuff like that. So it's just very frustrating to see, not even just for a Cincinnati Bengals fan if you are, but just for a football fan in general, because the Bengals have, listen, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, they are one of the most talented offensive trios in the entire NFL. And when they are all healthy, when they're all playing on Sundays, it's very fun to watch them. But it's unfortunate when you go down the field, you're scoring 30, 40 points, and your defense is giving up that same amount or more. And that's not helping you, and you're losing games because of that. And so the Bengals, like I said, they went 1-8 without Joe Burrow this year. They desperately need him on the field. He's finally back healthy now. Yesterday against the Dolphins, put up 309 yards, 4 touchdowns as they beat them 45-21. Defense played decent there, but again, they were going to be some Miami offense that has just been all out of whack, led by Tua Tagovailoa, and that's a whole different podcast. But focusing on the Bengals, if it's me, I feel like if a franchise is going to invest in me, and I'm a top draft pick, especially a quarterback of Joe Burrow's stature, I want them to invest in other areas of the team that need that support, that investment. That way we can put out the best product possible on Sundays or Monday nights or Thursday nights, whatever the case may be, so we can give ourselves the best chance of winning the Super Bowl, to making the playoffs and winning the Super Bowl, which is the goal every single year, win that championship. But if my organization is failing to do that every year, then that would be a problem, because you make this guy your number one quarterback. You make him your top draft pick. This is your face of the franchise, and since that lone Super Bowl appearance, you have failed to put around a consistent team, in his orbit on this on around him on the same team. It just hasn't been good. It hasn't been good enough. You know, so if I think Joe Burrow honestly should think about requesting a trade from the Bengals this offseason. I highly think it would be the best thing for him, to play somewhere else. He needs to go to a team that, actually like wants their team to win and is going to put in what they need to put in to better the franchise, better the team to give themselves the best chance to go and compete for a Super Bowl. And that means investing in the defense side of football, the offensive side of football, the offensive line, the running back position. The Bengals running game is, mediocre at best. Like they need to invest more in that. So it's just so many different moving parts. And even, play calling has not helped them either with Zach Taylor being the main offensive play caller. So that's why a lot of people are like calling for him to be fired. And I think, again, that they make a solid case for that. So it's just going to be interesting to see how they handle this offseason. They missed the playoffs this year, of course, and they play Arizona next week. But I just think that the Bengals need to have a long, hard conversation with themselves, with Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow. Like I said, man, go play where you can win. Go play where you're going to win, where you know that your talent, it won't be wasted. Because he's 29 years old. He's almost about to hit that point where, quarterbacks are playing longer now. But still, usually from, I say, 21 to 22 to 30 years old, somewhere in that span, the really elite quarterbacks, they, their prime years are really during that time, I would say. Now Joe has made a Super Bowl already, which is great. They didn't win, but he made a Super Bowl. He's made a couple playoff games, AFC Championship games. Still just hasn't been able to get over that hump and winning that Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts has done so in his time in the league between his prime years, and he'll soon be on that other side of 30 as well. So I think it's time for Joe Burrow as well. And now that Patrick Mahomes is not in the playoffs this year, he might miss the whole season next year with his ACL injury. Depends on how fast he heals, but prayers up to him. I don't know. It just seems like the NFL is taking a different route now. It seems like things are changing in the league. As we move throughout time here, it seems like, these other teams are getting better. They're changing things. You still have the Cincinnati Bengals who are sitting in that just purgatory mode, that purgatory area, not wanting to improve their franchise. Why? I don't know. The Browns are right there with them. The Atlanta Falcons are kind of there with them. So it's just very frustrating to see that consistently day in and day out from the Cincinnati Bengals. It's just very frustrating. I think Joe Burrow should definitely leave. Where I could see him realistically going to Minnesota, pairing with Justin Jefferson. JJ McCarthy is not realistically going to be your quarterback of the future. If you're the Vikings, let's just being honest here, that he can't be. I think they need to go make a move for a guy like Joe. Their defense is decent, better than the Bengals defense. You got teams like, I don't know, as far as QB needy teams, the Arizona Cardinals could be an option, but they still, they're not ready they're not on that level yet to get to as far as winning, as far as getting into the playoff level, contention level. They're not there, but they've played some great games this year even with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. They have competed in a lot of games this year. But the main thing, I just think that Joe Burrow just needs to leave. I just think he needs to leave Cincinnati. I think that's going to be in the best interest of him and the Cincinnati Bengals, because then they can get that draft capital that they get in return for Joe Burrow, and they can go in and make trades for some defensive players or pick their quarterback for the future, what have you, just to fix their team, fix their franchise. But just them consistently putting out this effort each year, starting out slow in September and like they've been doing the past couple years defensively, just giving up a lot of points and yards every game, not being physical, not tackling issues in the secondary, giving up big plays, just being all out of whack. That's not gonna. They're setting themselves back further and further every year. That's just what they're doing. Um, and it's just only going to waste prime years off of Joe Burrow's career, and we don't want that. I don't want that for him. He's one of my favorite players in the NFL. I really like Joe Burrow. I think he's one of the most talented QBs to come out into the league, but unfortunately for him, he just has not had the support of the team and the ownership to go put the best players around him. And that's the problem for Cincinnati. So it's going to be a long offseason. They got a lot of holes they have to fix, but me personally, I think, Joe, it's time to say bye-bye to Cincinnati. So that's my whole thoughts. You guys let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you think Joe Burrow should request a trade from the Bengals? Do you think that he should not do that, stay to see if they'll fix the team, see if they'll get him some help? What do you think should happen? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and support us here on Jay's Fifth Down. I'm your host, Jay, and of course, we'll see you next time. Hope you guys have a happy holidays.